political reforms and so on. All the indicators that one would share with you would suggest that, as I said, is doing better and better and better. I'll give you flavor of some of those achievements and so on. You see, starting from a country that was in a very turbulent environment regionally and so on, surrounded by too many developing situations and instability and so on. However, Egypt was the pivot of stability. We have restored full stability in the Republic. We have won a very malicious war with radicalization and terrorists in Egypt. We have restored stability in Sinai. We have been, the economy is doing fairly good, I mean, compared to the situation. We have embarked on an economic reform program whereby we have fluctuated the currency, devaluated our currency, and we started minimizing and restructuring the way we have subsidies in the society and so on, with the view to create social protection flows for the poorer segment of the society. In times of transitions and so on, it is extremely challenging to manage and to have the balance between expectations of the society and realities on the ground as they evolve and so on. For instance, I would say that all the essential features of the current state in Egypt can be highlighted in the steady progress in achieving Egypt's Vision 2030. 2030 is our Sustainable Development Goals that we have fitted for ourselves, which is a national agenda to reflect the country's long-term strategic plan to achieve the principles and goals of SDGs, as I said. The rising Egyptian progress in the Middle East appears strongly in Egypt's improvement in sustainable development indicators. Our Human Development Report and the International Human Development Reports are self-evident on that, and you may wish to check them if you'd wish. Instead of mentioning these indicators, which all reflect Egypt's steady progress, I will cite one example to illustrate what we're talking about. We have a very ambitious developmental program called Decent Life Initiative, or Haya Karima in Arabic, which is an initiative launched and dreamed by President Abdel al-Sisi. It started in January 2020 as a small and limited pilot phase, but it was expanded to become one of the biggest dreams and endeavors that would change the shape of life in Egypt in rural areas. I don't say programs because it's a massive program. Why are we saying so? You know that more than half of Egypt's population, about 60%, lives in the countryside, rural areas, where many of them were subjected to historical development injustice. When I say injustice, I mean that development was somehow biased towards rural areas rather than have equal development in the countryside as well. So Haya Karima comes to lift this injustice from 60 million Egyptian citizens, to give you the scale of the program, targeting almost 5,000 villages in Egypt. Can you believe that the percentage of access to sanitation in Egypt was less than 35% 6 years ago? Now it has reached 60% from 2015 to today in 6 years, which is massive. Which is the largest and fastest increase Egypt has ever witnessed in availing sanitation. It's a very costly business for those who are familiar with infrastructure type of projects and so on. The whole Decent Life Initiative is not limited to sanitation and infrastructure, but it includes all aspects of life and extends to alleviating the burden of citizens in communities most in need, in the countryside and slums in urban areas, and eliminate multi-dimensional poverty in order to provide a decent and sustainable life. So we're upgrading the infrastructure, but having creating jobs and caring for improving the education, healthcare services, trying to change and to empower people into the countryside areas and so on, so that you would have an equal opportunity like those who live in the urban areas. If they have the same access to internet, the same industrial complex that can create a job, the same education level and so on, you're lessening the drive and the motive to migrate domestically from the countryside, rural areas to urban sites. Thus, we are avoiding a very major problem that we were facing, which is the slum areas in the urban cities and so on. Another important feature of the reforms that we have had in Egypt and so on, that we have embarked on building 14 new cities. When I say new cities, it's well-planned cities, it's modern housing, modern roads, and so on and so forth. Thus, you're decreasing any possibility of having the slum areas and the slum housing and the type of socioeconomic challenges associated with that. So I meant to say that having all those initiatives was part and parcel of trying to address all the socioeconomic challenges in Egypt at one good solid program, the one I'm telling you about. So while caring to improve the macroeconomics, while caring to have the economic reforms and so on, we are working tirelessly on that issue of improving and focusing on human development. It's not about infrastructure. You do not just have a road. The development of the infrastructure is with the view to improve the quality of life, unleashing the real potential of the society, improving. Another important aspect as well that we were extremely mindful of the need to improve and to do better in what I would qualify political reforms and human rights and approach and good governance approaches as well. So we have had elections up to the international standard, full supervision from the judiciary. We have had the first ever human rights strategy to be declared in Egypt. When I say strategy, it is not, human rights is not a literature that you would put or file in a book and you forget about it. No, human rights is a process of education, is a process of dissemination of knowledge, is a process of training, is a process of institutionalizing the understanding of all the human rights and how to keep improving on that. I would put, for instance, the very ambitious programs we have in combating corruption as part and parcel of all those reforms that were done. Corruption, for those who are familiar with the history of the Middle East, is like the cancer that has always been like eating the fundamentals of the society and so on. President Sisi has cared a lot for that. The government is taking that business very seriously, very seriously. We're moving as well as part of the reforms into like a fully digital society. So combating all illicit flows and trying to integrate as well the informal economy into the formal economy. So we do not start from the scratch, but we are borrowing from the best international experiences and expertise in different parts of the world. Different success stories was extremely inspirational for us. I can speak like for too long on that, but I was trying to give you the flavor of what type of reforms, what type of renaissance project that we have had in place in Egypt. Meanwhile, to speak as well and not to forget about the foreign policy and so on, we continue to have a foreign policy that is of promoting peace in the region, promoting stability in the region, trying to be of help to all the neighboring countries. We have helped Libya, we have helped Sudan as much as possible. We have intervened in the conflict between Israel and the Palestinians in Gaza. We have helped having a ceasefire. We have a very solid ethical basis, and it's like the core value of our foreign policy. We act peacefully. We're promoting good neighborlessness and so on. And our success in harboring that difficult transition was extremely inspirational, to be honest, for others and so on. It's all about having strong institutions that is capable of serving their citizens, that is capable of fulfilling their duties, be it the national security, be it for the government. When I speak about the government, succeeding in doing all the structural reforms and giving equal opportunities to all the citizens and so on. This is what I wanted to say. Meanwhile, of course, Egypt, if you economically, if you would speak about the economy, we were developing and growing at the rate of from 5 to 6% pre-COVID. We have hit almost the 3-point-something percent even during the COVID, because very wisely we have applied the partial lockdown, not complete lockdown, because of the challenges associated with the socioeconomic situation we're facing and so on. And we wanted to maintain the momentum of succeeding into the economic reforms and so on. Luckily, we have managed to do well, and Egypt is one of the very few countries on earth in 2021 and whatever was left in the second half of 2020 who has managed even to grow. Passive growth economic growth was all over the place. A couple of words about my job here in the UN. I represent that wonderful middle-sized country called Egypt, with its history, its geography, being part of Africa, the Middle East, the Mediterranean. You know, we are at the core heart of the world, and of course I reflect and I try to the best of our abilities with my distinguished colleagues here, part elitist into the Egyptian Foreign Service, to keep harnessing all the expertise we have and so on, to see the UN more relevant to realities in the global scenery, more capable of maintaining that culture of attaining peace, helping the socioeconomic, doing a better job in the COP20 in the climate change. Egypt will be hosting, as Ms. Malika said, the COP27 in November 2022. We take that business very seriously, and I'll be honest, since we're in a closed club format, I knew that you're recording, but it's good to give you the flavor of where do we stand on that, because somehow we have succeeded in Glasgow to raise the level of ambition on working on the aspect of mitigation, meaning to lessen the emissions and so on. We're improving the target. The targets used to be around the increase in the temperature and for global warming and so on, around 2 degrees centigrade. We are taking that gradually to 1.5 and trying to control the global emissions to avoid and to lessen the global warming. But we did not have sufficient success into availing resources for the developing world to cope with that challenge, because transition to renewables is very costly. It has to do with technology transfer, and it has to do with concessional finance and so on. We have had some pledges and goals there, not fully achieved and met, and hence we're leading an effort and will be leading an effort to improve the target, to make it higher, and to improve the modalities for that concessional finance and so on. We'll give it a serious try. This is a COP that is held in Africa. This is COP that is held in a country who's fully cognizant of the global challenges associated with climate change and wants to have fair treatment for everyone. Because you see, the multilateral system, the output we have normally corresponds to the strengths of the negotiating parties. So when our Western colleagues come with that arsenal of knowledge, abilities, and so on, the balance in the negotiation somehow is biased towards those who have better cards. So it takes solid, good, middle-sized countries like us and the G77 and so on, trying to as well to have the balance in the equation and to reflect the interests of the developing world. This what I can say. Of course, I wish to say for the COVID as well that we try to have the vaccine equity approach and as well to make sure that we would not see what we're seeing, that in Africa the vaccination is 7% and the average in the developing world is 70%. It shows again. So we take that responsibility of being an African voice, a Mediterranean voice, and Middle Eastern voice in the UN very seriously. We take that responsibility with a lot of pride and a lot of seriousness. I would rest my case at that level, because as I said, I can speak for hours and hours and hours. Yes. It's my job. But to avail an opportunity for interactive dialogue, feel free to ask any question, to tell me, and to the best of our abilities, my abilities, I will respond. Thank you very much, Ms. Malika and distinguished President, Mr. Gerard.
Thank you so much. You said it all. We had videos to illustrate what you are saying, so I wonder if we need them now. Dr. Shaheen, do you think we should have the videos now? You just let me know. Yes, shall we do what I call the build back better Egyptian version, Egyptian flavor?
Yes, I think this
we
is
could just continue. Meanwhile, I will ask my fellow Rotarians if they have any questions. I also want to greet my very good friend Francis Dubois, who is going to moderate with me, and Joseph, Dr. Clay, Joseph Clay, and I see his wife, whom I say hello to, who was my predecessor in what I am doing now. Really big shoes to fill. So I open the floor to questions. Or Dr. Shaheen, do you want to have one of those, the first video that we have? Although the ambassador was very convincing in what he was saying, I think a video would illustrate his point.
Yes, please.
So, Andreas, please, can we have the first one?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. So it's on YouTube and called Decent Life Initiative. There is no sound, Andreas.
Yeah, there's a problem. 1 second.
Very cute little boy here.
1 second, please. There's a problem.
نفسي في حياة كريمة، نفسي مستقبل أفضل وعيشة أفضل من كده.
Thank you. Thank you, Andreas. I suppose that, well, we had to read the text to understand. So any questions? Doesn't it look like a Build Back Better Egyptian version?
I have a question, Malika.
Not to me.
No, not to you, to the
To His
ambassador.
Excellency.
Thank you for coming to our meeting, Your Excellency. My question concerns Yemen, which, as we recall, was part of the United Arab Republic many years ago. So what, if anything, is Egypt doing about the situation in Yemen, either politically or militarily or socially?
I'm happy that you're familiar with the Egyptian history, the common history with Yemen. You would recall that a few decades ago, it was Egypt who has taken and helped our brothers and sisters of Yemen to get out of the medieval ages and to have a modern republic and so on. So the affiliation of Egyptians with the Yemeni file is very strong and powerful one. Of course, we are all familiar with the current situation in Yemen, where there are military operation because we have a coalition led by Saudi Arabia fighting to support the Yemeni legitimate authority and government fighting an insurgents by the Houthis in certain parts in Yemen. of course, we're fully respectful, and we use the Security Council resolutions as the base for the way out of, for Yemen out of the crisis, which is like to have a ceasefire, to cease the hostilities, and for a political process to emerge whereby Yemenis would be capable of finding a solution. The UN had a special envoy there for the UN who's trying to assist. The major problem has to do with the Al-Houthis refusing to engage politically and to reach. We're trying to follow and to help and to facilitate the UN efforts leading to restoring stability in Yemen. This is what I can say about the Yemeni file, Mr. Yan.
Thank you. Any other question?
May I have a question? Hi, how are you? It's
Hello,
Joan here from Flushing, visiting my 93-year-old mother.
So you made it safely from Kenya?
Excuse me?
You were in Kenya, right? In Nairobi.
And I'm returning on Sunday. And I'd like to say that these remarks were really encouraging, because I do, my work is in biodiversity protection in East Africa, and I'm really glad our speaker did mention the role of Egypt. It's at the crossroads, Mediterranean, Middle East, and Africa. And in sub-Saharan Africa, the problems in East Africa parallel Egypt. I'm really glad Egypt has really managed to, succeed in East Africa. In Kenya, the population is exploding in biodiversity and sustainability. This Rotary Club knows so well the woes that I suffer because we're losing on biodiversity every day. The crises in urban population and urban stress is fantastic, but more to the expertise of our speaker, may I ask, because multilateralism is so important for the region, with regards to the Arab Spring in Libya and Tunisia, are you in a position, to the speaker, to remark on the Arab Spring generally? Has the region, in particular Libya, I would say, because of its energy, does the region also experience the same good things that Egypt, as you're remarking, housing and building back better? Would you say it's across the region, or because you did mention how you do support your neighboring countries?
Thank you very much, Ms. Joanne, for this very interesting question and so on. And the answer is, I would try to simplify it a little bit, because we can speak for days and days about that. It is the half full, half empty story all the time. When we speak about Arab transition, politically speaking and so on, it's a political transition happening, and political transitions do happen in country for domestic and international factors, all attributing to a situation. What has happened in the so-called Arab Spring was predicted by some of the scholars. You may recall that an Arab Human Development Report predicted that this part of the world has been facing some challenges, and if it was not addressed to a certain level and so on, it would lead to massive change and so on. So technically and politically, the story did not finish yet, so that a historian or an academic would sit down and write the solid story. Has it benefited or not? I would tend to, since I'm optimistic and so on, I would tend to see it from the positive side. At the end of the day, this was like millions and millions of people yearning for change, and change has happened. Change has happened positively in my country. Change has happened successfully. I'm proud of the story I'm telling, that Egypt has restored stability and has drawn a lot of lessons from the so-called Arab Spring and so on. When I said we have helped others in the Middle East, I'm honest on that, because you see, if you look at the Libyan file, we are not militarily intervening, but we're helping our brothers and sisters on Libya to have more solid institutions. We have set a certain red line trying to make sure that the East and the Western parties in Libya would not keep attacking each other and so on. We're calling for withdrawal of foreign troops. In Sudan, exactly the same. We're helping and catering for that delicate and wonderful new formula of the civilian and the military component working hand in hand to harbor the challenging transition as well in Sudan successfully. And you have said something, Ms. Joanne, about biodiversity. I'm happy that you're working on that field. You know, Egypt has hosted a very important meeting for all the state parties on biodiversity convention in Egypt. We have chaired it for 1 year, and we have an initiative trying to guarantee complementarity between climate change and what's happening in biodiversity and so on. You're familiar with the dire situation we face in Egypt that has to do with a very heavily population and living in a semi-arid zone where we are heavily, totally reliant on the Nile. Hence, that's why we care a lot about the Nile as a source of life, and hence how we take that business of trying to strike illegally a compromise and a deal with Ethiopia and the Sudan, legalizing the flow of water and giving us guarantees and safeguards concerning our water security. We have acquired rights, and we're living only on the Nile. It's our source of life, and that's how we try to have a legally binding agreement safeguarding the water security requirements and interests of Egypt and the Sudan, and availing an opportunity for Ethiopia, of course. They have the right to develop and so on, but this is what we're trying to do there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other question? Maybe we could just...
I have another question, Malika, of the ambassador. Hope I'm not hogging the questions, but Mr. Ambassador, in the Red Sea is the oil storage tanker Safar, which is in danger of exploding or leaking. And politically, it doesn't look like anybody is able to do anything to defuse that situation. So my question is, in terms of the Egyptian Red Sea coastline, is Egypt doing anything defensively to protect its coastline against a potential massive oil spill?
Thank you very much. In broad terms, of course, I will try to the best of my abilities to respond to your very specific questions. I can tell you that since if you're familiar with Egypt, most of international trade that goes via Suez Canal is extremely important for us. We have sufficient naval forces operating to guarantee maritime security in the Red Sea, and we continue to believe that countries of shoring the Red Seas are capable to cooperate with each other and to safeguard maritime security in the Red Sea. Of course, environment falls very high in our agenda. We're a touristic destination. We have millions and millions of people who go to dive in Sinai, Sharm el-Sheikh, and all along our Red Sea coastal zone. The issue of Safar is closely monitored, and it falls within the jurisdiction of the UN as well, and the UN mission is trying to assist, and we to the best of our abilities, we try to assist all the parties to reach a permanent solution to that very imminent danger as elaborated by you, Mr. Jan. I can see that Thank you, sir. Mr. Francis is raising his.
Yes, Safir, Mr. Ambassador, I have a comment. I enjoyed very much what you said, and I want to tell all my friends of the Rotary Club to visit Egypt. It's a wonderful country, and I think the Rotary Club of New York should organize a trip together and to visit from Alexandria to Aswan, and they will have a great time. Shukrani ktir, and happy holidays. Thank you.
Okay.
Shukran to you, sir. I add my voice to you, inviting all the distinguished Rotarians to respond positively. I can be of help if you'd wish to have a collective visit to Egypt. Believe me, you will not regret it. This is the most wonderful country, very rich in history, and you will never regret it. You will see what you cannot see elsewhere, I mean.
Yes, which brings me, let's stick now to our program. Let's, of course, tourism. Tourism, usually when we think of Egypt, we think of the pharaohs, and we also think of the mummies. And we have a very nice video on how the mummies are treated in Egypt. So Andreas, I think it's the third or the second or third video. Meanwhile, we would like also to discuss a little bit more on climate change and the role of Egypt in the COP27. So first the mummies, which were given an imperial treatment just because they were changing residences. So they're going to be brought. I mean, you see the ceremony, it's impressive. The 22 Egyptian mummies were escorted to their new residence. In all, 18 kings and 4 queens were relocated from
the
one
voice.
to another.
The voice is not, because the music is great and marvelous. If we can have the voice.
I don't know. Dr. Shaheen, can you help in?
I'm sorry, I don't have access to screen
Oh,
sharing.
yes, you're right. I remember the music, which was absolutely yeah, beautiful. Shall we skip the music for sake of so it's the Pharaoh's Golden Parade over a bridge. Anyway, I will send you the link maybe so that you could revisit this video. What a ceremony. What a parade. So we stop here, I suppose. So that was the my question has to do with COVID. How has COVID affected tourism in Egypt?
World-class doctors supported by the most.
Sorry. I don't know.
Go ahead, Malika.
My question, Mr. Ambassador, have you heard my question? How has COVID impacted the tourism?
It has. You would recall that starting from March 2020, we have had like a full hold of the air travel around the globe for like 6-7 months and so on. But once we have had the resumption of air travel and air traffic and so on, we have had a very solid program to guarantee the safety and the health requirements as requested by the World Tourism Organization. in all the touristic destinations. All the workers were vaccinated. We have had isolation rooms. We have had teams and medical teams and so on ready. And we were doing the PCR in the airports, in the hotels, and so on. And I would argue that we have succeeded, because the flow of tourists that has been achieved ever since that moment was impressive, and we have received millions and millions. All of them very have entertained and enjoyed a lot the visit to Egypt. Of course, the COVID has had a bearing in the whole societies, all the countries, and so on. But for us, we have tried to cope with the challenge. You need to keep doing the business while catering for public health requirements and so on. The Golden Parade, the link was put into the chat box. So I invite all of you, and believe me, we would not regret it, to have a look at those wonderful clips.
Thank you. Thank you. I understand that the COVID was not that bad in Egypt, not as bad as in the other countries of not only the region, but like in Europe.
Yes, I mean, compared to the size of our societies and of our population, with 100 million Egyptians and so on, the casualties and the infection rate and the fatalities, we don't. I mean, the WHO experts are working on the analysis and so on, but in a lot of African countries, the spread and the outbreak was not as severe as it happened elsewhere in the globe. So, but of course, we take it very seriously. We're immunizing and vaccinating the people. We're manufacturing even the vaccines, and that would lead me to a call. I wish to appeal to all of you that you should be calling for the patent rights. Honorable President Biden was kind enough to say that it's high time for the international pharmaceuticals like Pfizer and so on to give the patent rights to others and to share it with others, so that they can start manufacturing vaccines. Because no one is secure till everyone is secured. Believe us, this is a global threat. It is not a threat that is hitting. You cannot isolate yourself. We have had the Omicron in a few countries. The following day, it was in 60 countries. You see,
right?
It happens.
Right.
I would need to excuse myself within minutes, so I can see that Mr. Limby, Francis Limby, I wish to have the opportunity to respond to their comments, and then I have to run because I'm presiding a meeting in the General Assembly with the head of the ECOSOC, the president of the ECOSOC, my dear brother, Ambassador Khalek. Mr. Limby, you have.
Hi, Osama. Teslim yadak habibi. I'm your colleague from Cairo University. I joined Cairo University the time when you graduated, and also I did my graduate study at Cairo University. Actually, the Egyptian people, they're very decent people. I like them very much. They love everybody. The bad thing in Egyptians, if you fight with them, you just kiss him and everything is gone. This is the best of all. So I just want to talk about the human right, especially on the base of the human organs. We know the human organ in Egypt is a huge problem in Egypt, but in the recent time, the recent years, the refugee became the victim of the human organ in Egypt, especially the Southern Sudanese. So the Egyptian government has any plan in order to educate the Egyptian people so that they can allow the people to donate the organ without going into the black market or just without going into that kind of black market and treat the refugee people with respect at least.
Thank you very much, my brother Francis. Happy to see you on the screen, and I could tell that you are South Sudanese from your accent and so on. Happy that you You and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of our brothers and sisters of South Sudan is living peacefully in Egypt, getting education, well treated, equally the same as all Egyptians, having access to all institutions, public institutions and education and so on. We're very proud of our historic ties with our brothers. We share the same blood as you would know in the River Nile. In the River Nile. What you have touched upon is an important issue. To facilitate the issue for the audience, it speaks about the culture of donating some part of your human organs and so on for medical reasons. If someone needs a kidney, so we're developing gradually, my dear brother Francis, and we have had a law governing donations and so on, and some NGOs are actively engaging and trying to encourage people to start that. I would be honest, sometimes, you know, there are religious interpretations on that, and part of our society where sometimes they think that this is not religiously correct or so, but gradually speaking, I can say that people are more receptive to the idea when it has to the cornea, the eyes, the kidneys, and even some of the livers. So normally we start in the family spheres, my dear Francis. If we have a case and so on, we go to colleagues and the family and we start that. But rest assured, we're a country where the rule of law is very strong and so on, and we address all the challenges associated with that very seriously, and we try to encourage the people for the donations and benefiting from what you would see in the US or UK and so on. This is what I can say.
Thank you.
Well, I think that we are going to say thank you. You have 10 minutes to cross First Avenue and get where you have to be right now. So thank you very much, Your Excellency, for being with us today to give us your time. Now, I think we're going to continue without you. Dr. Shaheen, will you be staying with us?
Yes, Ahmed would be more than happy to continue engaging. He's one of the best Egyptian diplomats. He's even better than myself, and would be in a position to respond and to give you all the responses and so on. He has my full confidence, I want to thank you dearly, all of you, for availing me that wonderful opportunity. We look forward to keep cooperating with you in similar encounters later on. Thank you very much. I'm really very grateful.
Thank you, Excellency, and please be careful crossing First Avenue, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Be safe.
Malika, if I may interject for 1 second, I just wanted to recognize Farouk Kanatar from the Rotary Club Adana in Turkey, Wilfred Wilkinson, past Rotary International President, Gualberto Ranieri from our sister club in Rome, and Raymond Foster, San Dimas in California. Welcome. Surprised you got up so early this morning. You're 3 hours behind us, so welcome. Again, good to see you. I'm sorry we're going to miss you Friday at our board meeting. Be safe. Go ahead, Malika.
And actually, what caught my eye for after the Glasgow conference is that Egypt has been selected to host the next COP27. Now that is huge. Climate change, of course, is a concern of all of us. And maybe Dr. Shaheen, you can tell us something about that. How Egypt was selected as the venue for the next COP, the United Nations COP on climate change. So we have a video, by the way. Do you want Dr. Shaheen to have it now, or do you want to wait and introduce it first?
Yes, thank you very much, Ms. Malika, and thank you all. My name is Ahmed Shaheen. I'm the acting DPR of Egypt to the United Nations. I have to say that and the stress that we are so proud, the ambassador and myself, for being with you today. And I would like to add something that I'm not sure if every one of you is aware of, which is Rotary clubs in Egypt has very long history, very long traditions, and very high respect from all kinds and walks of society, not only among middle and upper classes, but within even the countrysides, the rural sides, because of the charity works they do, and because of the very long and deep involvement in the problems and challenges of the Egyptian society. So for a long time, and the bond has been established in Egypt, and Rotary clubs. Personally, I have many friends who are members of Rotary clubs in Egypt, and they are very effective and very well respected. So thank you very much. And for the climate change, Malika, I would prefer if I just say, just introduce the video. The video, I think, is will focus mainly on the efforts of Egypt in countering climate change issues. So let me just talk about that. Nothing is more important at present time than the issue of climate change, whose threat is not limited to sustainable development efforts, but extends to include the existence of our species itself on planet Earth. Egypt has always been, actually, and you know that Egypt, we have a very long and extended coastlines on the Mediterranean. It's almost 1,000 kilometers. So with cities like Alexandria, which had, of course, its name from Alexander the Great thousands of years ago, is threatened by climate change. And that was highlighted in COP26 in Glasgow, UK. We are so keen, not only out of international commitments and responsibilities, but out of fearing on our own cities and our own country. So we play a pivotal role in unifying international efforts to address climate change. The announcement by the General Secretariat of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, known as UNFCCC, that Egypt was chosen as a representative of the African continent to host the activities of the 27th session of the Conference of the Parties to the Convention, which is COP27. This will be in Sharm el-Sheikh in November 2022. Of course, the choice of Egypt, we look at it to host COP27. It comes as an appreciation from the international community for the efforts made by Egypt in the field of development while preserving the environment, which is very sacred, I would say. Maybe, of course, always there's a room for improvement. And we try to learn from our mistakes, from our shortcomings. We try to educate ourselves, government before the people, to increase our awareness on how to preserve the environment and how to protect the environment, because the relationship between Egyptians and the environment has been for a long time sacred to ancient Egyptians even. So we think this is an appreciation from the international community for the efforts made by Egypt in the field of development and in protecting environment. And we already hosted the conference of parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity in 2018, and it was a huge success. So I think now maybe if we can gratefully play the video, that would be great. Thank you very much.
With every rising sun, the world changes and nature faces another challenge: pollution, desertification, and above all, climate change. Egypt is taking the challenge head on, setting goals and taking giant leaps towards a nature-positive future. The government of Egypt is on an adaptation mission to rehabilitate the Egyptian lakes as well as the canal lining. Egypt transitioned from the traditional energy sources to renewable, more sustainable and planet-friendly energy sources by introducing and implementing the concept of waste to energy, putting nature at the heart of development. And in record time, the Egyptian government solved one of its most pressing problems: traffic. Egypt built a huge road network. easing the burden of heavy traffic and significantly reducing exhaust gases emission and pollution. High protection infrastructure in Alexandria tells the new adaptation story of success. And with the growing demand for power, Egypt is mastering the art of using renewable and sustainable energy sources. Aside from building one of the largest solar parks in the world, the Benban project, Egypt is also expanding the use of wind power by increasing the number of wind farms. Renewable energy, sustainable transport and waste management. All efforts working towards mitigation of greenhouse gases emission, ensuring a smart and nature-friendly environment. Highly efficient waste management systems are implemented, especially in the solid waste management area. For better sustainable transport, the monorail is now linking the new administration capital with downtown Cairo. Egypt is aiming at transferring to clean and renewable power sources and is being recognized for its efforts globally. Bahr al-Bakar, the world's largest wastewater treatment plant, is one of the major successes added to our green story. And on the Red Sea, another crown jewel stands proud as a green city of peace, Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, an ancient civilization heading towards a growing green economy and a forever glowing light. On behalf of Africa, Egypt is ready to host COP27 in 2022 in Sharm el-Sheikh.
Thank you, thank you. So everybody in Sharm el-Sheikh, when is it going to take place, by the way?
November 2022.
Oh my goodness. Well, we have only a few months to get organized and get there. It's one of the spots that's really incredible, where my children do how do they call that sport? Another dangerous one that they love. What do you do in Sharm el-Sheikh? You deep diving?
Yes, deep diving.
Yes, that's what they do. And I think they used to go there quite often. So the
Malika,
water must be very clear, and they prefer it to Barbados. So that must be really very, very good. Now, I think it will, well, climate change is everything in my view. Do you
Malika,
have anything?
may I interrupt for a second? May I ask Dr. Shaheen a question?
Yeah,
Just
sure.
go on. Dr. Shaheen, good morning to you. And thank you for being with us. In the video, it mentioned solid waste to energy. Is it talking about solid waste incineration as a means of creating electricity, energy?
Yes, exactly.
Aha, okay, thank you.
This is a project actually Egypt has been working on for quite some time now, and I think it started to produce some results.
I see, okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, it's now 10:05 and I have another meeting as well.
Yes, we all do, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. It was a real pleasure and honor.
It
Thank
was
you
an
for
honor
being with
for
us.
us to host you. Thank you very much. We have only touched upon a few issues. I know that there's much more to be said about your leadership in many areas. And we are certainly look at the parade of mummies and the music that comes with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
President Gerard. Oh, there is a question about Christina. Christina wants to follow up on something very important. She's ambassador of Goodwill Ambassador for COVID. So I don't know, Christina, could you maybe send your question to Andreas and myself by email, and we will follow up.
Indeed, we will always be open.
So, President Gerard, do you want to close the meeting?
Thank you so much for being with us, for everyone for being with us this morning. I could not help but thinking that it would have been great if we could have met, for those of you who are not familiar with New York City, directly across the East River from the United Nations in Astoria, Queens, is a section of New York called Little Egypt. Along Steinway Street, a lot of great Egyptian restaurants, and Dr. Shaheen and Ambassador, who had to leave us, it would have been great if we could have met there this morning for some great Egyptian coffee, but unfortunately, due to COVID, there are all kinds of inhibitions we have to deal with. Thank you everyone for being with us this morning. Please stay safe. Have a great new year. We will meet again in January at our UN breakfast meetings. And of course, we will continue with our Zoom meetings from regular Zoom meetings from Rotary Club of New York. Thank you so much for your help this morning. Malika, you always do a great job. You're a gem and a great asset to our club.
Thank you. There is a meeting of the International Service Division right after this one. So if you wish, those who wish to stay, John German, fellow Rotarian John German, is the president of that group. He will be moderating.